Namaste. At Sharada Prabha, we consider travel to be a very powerful form of learning, and therefore we encourage and invite travelers to come and share their experiences with children so that learning extends beyond the classroom. Today's Travelogue takes us to Sri Lanka, a land whose history and geography is deeply connected to the present-day India. From sacred narratives of the Ramayana to shared traditions in religion, food, clothing, and art, Sri Lanka has deep ties with Bharatiya culture. And this shows that despite the distance, because of the sea in between, how cultures can stand united in spirit. Through this experience, children learned that stories such as the stories that we hear in the Ramayana are not just tales of the past, but sacred narratives that shape identity and heritage. Most importantly, students learned about the importance of community living. In today's times of increasing loneliness and fractured homes, this is an important reminder that community living or community life is the backbone, is the foundation of cultural and emotional resilience. This is a much needed lesson not just for children but for all of us. Enjoy this journey to Sri Lanka. Join us. Namo Namaha. Suprabhatam. So when we send off travelers on a path, okay, we say goodbye, we bid farewell to someone. In Sanskrit, we say Shubhaste Panthanaha, that may your journey be auspicious, may your travel be auspicious. Why? Because travel is a form of learning. In Ramayana, which you all enacted for the annual day, who traveled? Ram. Ram, iron. Travels of Ram. Okay. And remember, when Hanuman reaches the tip of South India, he also travels, right? He flies. And then when Ram comes with his army, they build a bridge, Ram Setu, to go to Lanka, Ravana's Lanka. So today, we're going to learn about Sri Lanka. Sri means auspiciousness. Lanka is the name of the place where in Ramayana, Ravan used to live and inhabit. In those days, it was golden Lanka. But Lanka is golden because of its culture. It has a lot of similarities with the Bharatiya culture, with Indian culture. In fact, it is considered was considered and is considered culturally to be a part of Bharat, pan-Indian culture. Okay, East Asian culture. When you study East Asian culture, you learn about Sri Lanka and many other countries in Southeast Asia. And you will see a lot of similarities in architecture, in clothing, in cuisine, in religion, and in arts. All of you know that at Sharada Prabha we encourage and invite travelers to come and share their journey. Do you all enjoy hearing about journeys of other people? Yes. Yeah, so we're going to continue that series. Today we're going to welcome Mr. Frédéric. Please come and share your first-hand travel experience of Sri Lanka.
Namaste. And in Sri Lanka, in Sinhalese language, they say it like Suba Udesanak. So I'm very happy to be here with you today to share my experience of traveling through Sri Lanka and introduce you to first some geographical and historical element of the country before getting deeper into like the nature, animals we find there, and some element of basically history. As you saw in your annual day last year, and you basically acted some of the scene of the Ramayana, and you will see today what is the significance of Sri Lanka in the Ramayana. So this is also something that you may have heard before, and you will get the chance to visualize the meaning of Sri Lanka in the Ramayana. Later, we'll also take a look at the civilization of Sri Lanka, going through the different kingdoms and important cities in history, some elements of the architecture as well that are still standing today as impressive monuments. And of course, I will take you through some arts, paintings, culture, but also traditional ways of producing things that are very particular to the country. For example, gems, you can find a lot of them in Sri Lanka, and also tea. So through the different period of time, I will take you through these traditions. And at the end, because I don't want to leave you hungry, we'll get to experience some of the Sri Lankan treats to conclude our session. So we start with Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is really very close to India. It's a small island. And from here, it's about like 1,500 kilometers away, which seems quite far in the distance, but not so much, because if you get closer to the southern part of India, it's almost one leap away. And Hanuman took this leap, if you remember. So you have India and Sri Lanka, they are very close together, and the traditional emblem of Sri Lanka is the flag that you can see here. See, it's a very particular flag with a lion, which is basically the symbol of the Sinhalese community, representing authority, power, and this maroon color at the background is very significant for the Sinhalese majority there. There are several ethnicities that are also represented on the flag. If you see like this saffron stripe here, it's for the Tamil people who are also living in Sri Lanka, together with this green stripe representing the Muslim community. And the yellow color at the background is for all the other ethnicities. You see, it's a very multicultural country with different people that basically are living together. And if you take a look a bit more closely at this part of the flag, you can see like 4 leaves, which are the leaves of the Bo tree, which represent the 4 virtues of Buddhism, because Buddhism is very important in Sri Lanka. And these 4 virtues are love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, or indifference, resilience to external elements. So this is for the flag. And in Sri Lanka, there are like close to 22 million inhabitants. So compared to India, relatively small population, do you remember how many inhabitants are living in India today? No? In India today, there are about like 1.4 billion inhabitants, which is like multiple times the population of Sri Lanka. 70 times close. So imagine, you take 70 times the population of Sri Lanka to get to the population of India. And there are 2 languages, official languages, Sinhala and Tamil, representing the 2 main population group in Sri Lanka. And they have their own currency, which is the Sri Lankan rupees, which is different from the Indian rupee. Yeah, small country, 65,000 kilometers square. Compared to India, I think India is like 50 times bigger than Sri Lanka. So it's a very, very small country. And through history, Sri Lanka has gone through a lot. At the origin, there was like Buddhism was introduced around like the 3rd century before Christ. You remember the day Jesus Christ was born is Christmas, 25th of December, and it is a reference for some historians as year 0. So 300 years before that, Buddhism was introduced to Sri Lanka. And then there was a rich civilization of kingdoms throughout the island, and they developed for centuries. They built like huge cities, and we will get to that a bit later. Before the Portuguese, and in the 16th century, came to the island, because it was very important for them Sri Lanka is a small island, but it's a route for trade, connecting the West, Asia, the Middle East, so it has a strategic importance. Therefore, the Portuguese came to Sri Lanka and established like a trade counter. Later on, they were pushed by the Dutch people, who also realized the strategic importance of the island and even more focused on trade. It was not easy for them to settle. There were some wars, but then the Sri Lanka changed hands from the Portuguese to the Dutch, and then later on, the British came. And they brought, we will see, a lot of the infrastructure. They also developed agriculture a lot with like plantation fields for coffee, tea, especially. So they even more accelerated the development of Sri Lanka before the independence of the island in 1948. So you will see through these different influences, the culture of Sri Lanka has been influenced, but stayed still today very much close to the Sinhalese people. So now, because you remember what you studied as a preparation of the annual day, the Ramayana, and I will need your help, okay, to take me through the link between Lanka and India. So, first, Lanka was the kingdom of Ravan. Who is Ravan? Remember?
Yes.
Who is Ravan?
Ravan,
Yeah?
the king of Lanka.
Yes. And he was living in this island, and basically Ravan represents like material power and pride, and the opposite of Dharma, Adharma. Okay. And when he took Sita, he held her captive in his kingdom, Lanka. So Sita was taken by Ravan and brought to Lanka. So we see here Hanuman taking a leap from India to go to Sri Lanka, which was nearby, to cross this ocean. Also, what we find in Sri Lanka is that Ravan was worshipping Shiva, so there are many temples about Shiva in Sri Lanka. And ultimately, what happened? With the bridge, Ram could come and the army, and they defeated Ravan. You remember? In Sri Lanka. And this is like this Yudhakanda battle. And then Ram won, Sita was delivered, and a king was reinstated. And this is the king Vibhishana, who first said to Ravan, "Oh no, you shouldn't keep Sita captive here. You should send her back to Ram." But at that time, Ravan didn't listen, and then this whole thing triggered his defeat. And so these are the links between the Ramayana and Lanka, and the history of Lanka, and I'm sure it resonates with you because you had a wonderful play at the annual day last year, deep diving into these different stages and the Setu Bridge and everything. Here we'll talk about Sri Lanka as a country, about the nature, the animals, what we can find there. And what I would like to start with is this picture. What do you see on this picture?
Elephants.
Yes. One elephant? Many elephants. Because there are many elephants in Sri Lanka. And this is in a national park, Mineria. And every year, during the dry season, the elephant travel next to a water tank because they need to drink. They need to basically find the water. And this leads to hundreds of elephants converging to this water tank in Mineria. And at this specific time of the year, during the dry season, you can see hundreds of elephants. Small, big, they come in families, they stay together to also stay stronger together. And as you can see, there are small birds on their back. In the national park, you can see many species of birds, But this one is basically cleaning up the elephant. So they are eating, and they benefit basically the elephant. They are feeding and the elephant are clean, so they live together. This is one of the picture that I wanted to show you today. There are also really nice botanical garden in Sri Lanka. They are very nice climate conditions, and you can see this is like a Peradeniya botanical garden. I had the chance to go there, and many also species of orchids, which are flowers that are very delicate and need very specific conditions to grow healthily. As well, in Lanka, you can see some beaches, natural beaches here, especially in the southern part of the country. And you see, there is nobody. You go early in the morning, you walk, you do your meditation. That's really nice to do. Here also in the evening, but there are also nice beaches in India, to be honest. And one element that is very important is the rainforest. There are some primitive rainforests in Sri Lanka, you can see here, with forests that have been left untouched by nobody is going there, human. It's basically hosting endemic species to Sri Lanka. This one is a very specific reserve in the southern part of Sri Lanka. And you have trees that are as tall as 50 meters high. It's very dense, old forest, and very humid, tropical element. It's an evergreen forest. That's very specific. And I remember to go there because it's also humid and there are leeches. You need to put salt on your socks so that the leeches, they don't come and bite you. And in this forest, we find that kind of snakes. You see a small snake, venomous snakes, green viper. That is, I was traveling with a guide in this forest because, of course, the guys know better than me. And we were walking and we found all kinds of species, discovering the forest. And yes, you need to be careful about this kind of snakes. Very small, you hardly can see them. If you are not trained, they are hiding naturally in the forest. What is also really nice in Sri Lanka, you have that kind of mountain setting. Here it's a picture taken in Ela. And Ela is in the mountains. There are many tea plantations. I will show you a few later on. And I was hiking. Hiking is that you walk on a path and you find your way up and down. So, I mean, here you see, I am on a rock, sitting on a rock, and I was leaving from the village, and the local people, they gave me this map. It is not a map like you can see on a GPS. It's like you have to understand that you have to turn after the building, look for the trees, and go on the rail track, and then after, if you see something, you need to turn left. So this is the only way you can do the hike. There is no path they give you. They give this small map, and then you have to find your way through the countryside. It's a bit of an adventure process. That's what I like very much. And we come to this picture. Here, what can you see?
Train.
Yes, that's a train. But what we see as well, we are in the mountains, and here around are tea plantations. You see very well organized lines of small trees. These are the trees, the tea plantation that are used to produce tea. And the altitude is very favorable for tea because it's basically help grow high quality tea. And this train was developed by the British people when they came to the island so that they can produce tea and transport the tea leaves faster from the mountain to the seaside. And it is said that this train line is one of the most beautiful in the world because you are progressing slowly and seeing some nice curve around the tea plantation. So we'll get to see later how to produce tea. But this is where it grows. Of course, also around the British influence, there were some nice gardens that were built. This is in Nuwara Eliya, which is a city at about 1900 meter elevation in the mountain, in the middle of the tea plantations. And these gardens were built by the British people. It's quite cold, I would say, in this city. Fresh air is there. You see this picture? What do you see on this picture? You see a wall, some wall and the sea. This is basically a fort that is in a very important city for the country, in Galles, which was a city close to the seaside, so it was a harbor used to trade a lot, sending products abroad through sea. And this fort was first built by the Portuguese people when they came to the island, but it was a small fort, and then later expanded into a high fortification by the Dutch when they came to the island. So you can see this architecture, really big fort, and the walls are like 4 to 5 meters high to protect from any aggression, external aggression. So this is connected to the history. But also, I would like to draw your attention to this picture here, which is a hike, another hike I did to Adam's Peak. Adam's Peak is a mountain in Sri Lanka, which has a very important religious significance for different religions. And it's called Sri Pada because it is said that on the top of the mountain there is a footprint of the Buddha for the Buddhist people, of Hanuman for the Hinduist people, and from Adam for the Christian people and Muslim people who set foot on this mountain first when they came. And to get to this peak, Adam's Peak, which is one of the highest in the country, you have to start early morning, especially before sunset, so that you can enjoy the sunrise from the top. And there are like 5,000 steps to climb. Imagine 5,000 steps to climb to get to the top. And it's a pilgrimage place, so you can find as well a very important signification. And of course, at the top, you have some bells to ring. Unfortunately, the day I was there, the weather was misty. I couldn't see much, but still an enjoyable experience to ring that bell. And I was really happy to take the path of all the pilgrims who climbed up there. And you can see a lot of waterfalls as well on this picture. So what we have seen now is like some element of the nature, some cities, and some nice landscape from Sri Lanka in this stop. Do you have any question here? Otherwise, I would suggest we move to the next stop. Okay? So we'll go now talking about temple and ancient cities. Because during a long period of time, there were many kingdoms in Sri Lanka with different capital cities. And I would like to basically introduce you to this today, starting with the most significant city, Anuradhapura, that you can see here, which was once the capital of the big kingdom in Sri Lanka. It is said it was one of the largest cities in Asia at its peak, with like 2 million inhabitants or so. So on this side, many buildings were erected, many temples also, because it was the hotbed of the civilization. And some of the distinctive elements of this architectural landscape are the Dagobas. You can see this dome-shaped here in Anuradhapura. Also here, dome-shaped building, which are actually religious elements, and which are hosting relics, either said from the Buddha or from important priests. And they have all similar designs. You see the dome, then on top of the dome you have a square, and then a spike. So the Sri Lankan people and the Buddhists, they call that Dagobas. They are also named sometimes stupas. And they are very, very big. If you take a look at this one, which is a very important Dagoba in Anuradhapura, the Jetavana Rama Dagoba, you see the size of a man here. standing. You see? And this one is really, really, really big. And it is made out of bricks. You know, the bricks that you put in oven, and then you build walls with bricks. And it is said that on this specific Dagoba, there are more than 90 millions of bricks. 90 millions of bricks. So this is very significant building, very high. I think the diameter is close to 100 meters. So it's very, very big. And Buddhists, what they do around Dagoba, they walk in circle, clockwise, and they meditate, they pray. That's also what is highlighting the significance of this architectural element. And this one is in brick, so very significant. And others are, mostly in white color. And you can see, as there are also many temples, you remember when we talked about Cambodia last time, they were like the apsaras welcoming at the entrance of the temple. Here on the moonstones, you see also some dancers who are also inviting. They are the guardians of the temples to enter. So this is some elements of Anurad Apura. But then, in the story of Sri Lanka, there were some kings, fights, and the capital city was relocated from the big Anurad Apura to the top of a rock in Sigiriya. And if you look at the picture, where can you see a rock? Can you see a rock somewhere? Imagine. Yes? Here, rock. Here it's a statue, but imagine a big rock standing. Sigiriya. I will show you. Here, you see? This is a big rock, like a mountain. Actually, this rock is the remain of a volcano, volcano where there is some magma. And when the volcano erupted, the magma stayed in the column and solidified. And the ground, the earth around the solidified magma, then was washed away, brushed away, blown away by the elements, and only the solidified magma remained. So it's like a big place, close to 200-meter elevation, that was used by one king to establish its capital city. So the capital of Sri Lanka moved from Anuradhapura to Sigiriya. And it was like there was a royal palace, there were monasteries, city life on top of these rocks. In the history later, it became a monastery. But for some time, a king lived here. And when this king was defeated, the capital city moved to Polonnaruwa. But if you see Sigiriya, you can see, for example, some of the remains of the buildings and royal palace. You have a nice view over everything around. So it gives you a strategic position in case some people try to come to defeat you or to fight a war with you. So this is why, also from the strategic perspective, why Sigiriya remain important. And of course, it's associated as well to the lion of Sri Lanka because there is a gate which has basically the shape of a lion, and today you can still see the paws of the lion. So this is Sigiriya, these three pictures. And then the capital city moved a bit later to Polonnaruwa, which is the third very important city in history of Sri Lanka. And you can see some of the elements of Polonnaruwa where they built a total new city with their own buildings, sculpture. You can see here the Buddha, which is sculpted in a piece of rock. You remember what is a sitting Buddha doing?
Meditation.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Here you have a temple, Shiva temple. Here you have a lotus pond with the shape of a lotus in Polonnaruwa. So there were a whole civilization built around this. You have also Dagobas in Polonnaruwa, also big, significant, and you can see complex temples here with lions guarding the temples as well, and columns, different architecture types, which basically highlights the significance of the place for the history of Sri Lanka. This one is a very specific temple in Kandy. Kandy is a city that is more like at the center of Sri Lanka, and they have built a temple which is hosting a tooth relic of the Buddha. That's why it's a very important city for Sri Lankan people. And at the same time, it was the capital city of a kingdom. There were a lot of small kingdoms in Sri Lanka, and this king was quite influential, especially during the time of, the Dutch and British invasion. Kandy and the king of Kandy collaborated with the Dutch and the British. First with the Dutch to defeat the Portuguese, then with the British to defeat the Dutch. So that's some of the historical significance of this city and temple, which is hosting a tooth relic of the Buddha. So now we can take our next step, art section. And before we talk about traditional arts, I also would like to introduce you to how tea became significant and also gems in Sri Lanka. I told you in this country you find a lot of tea plantation, and they're also very famous for the gems, all kind of gems. So here you can see they are processing tea to prepare tea for export and consumption. And you can see, I told you, from the tea plantation, so the workers, they pluck the tea leaves, the fresh tea leaves from the top. Then they bring it to this factory, where basically they are put on large beds. There is some air going through, a bit warm, to dry them a little bit, like close to 40–50% humidity left, before they are crushed by rolls to basically break the cells and start to free up the aromas. And then after this is done, this is further dried so that it only remains like 2–3% humidity. And then they are sorted out, different shape, colors, to have different kind of teas. So this is different processes. As you can see, this is dried here, then crushed, and then later on, when it moves further, then the color becomes black, because they produce a lot of black tea, but also other teas, and then packaged and ready for export. Yes, you have a question? Oh, no? Okay. So this is for the tea, very important in Sri Lanka. At some point in the history, coffee was also dominant, but then the coffee plantations, they were destroyed by diseases, and tea took over. And the British really focused on this tea plantation because they still, until nowadays, drink a lot of tea. Second element, I told you in Sri Lanka we can find a lot of gems. And what do we do with gems? We do jewelry. So the gems are found in the ground, in stones. They are extracted, then they are cut, polished, and then assembled into jewelry. So here you can see on this picture different stages. You have here like some kind of a raw gems. Yes?
These are real gems.
Yes, there are all kind of gems. So you can find green, blue, red, all kind of colors representing very specific gems, sapphire, and so on. And then they are processed into small factories to become stones that are then assembled with jewelry, gold, and silver. This is one of the, I would say, traditional work that you can find in Sri Lanka, especially in the city, Ratnapura, which is in the south, but here it was also in Kandy. So these are for the two, I would say, handicraft, tea plantation and gem polishing jewelry factory that are very present. But if we look now at the arts of Sri Lanka, the culture, dancing, playing music, painting, you can see, for example, here, it was in Polonnaruwa, one of the cities we just talked about, some people were painting in the temples, and you can see some elements here, representation of these paintings in the temple. So they are very, very old, well preserved, and highlighting also the significance of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is also famous for its drums, especially in Kandy. You can see here the different shape of drums with dancers, and we will watch a couple of videos explaining how these drums are made and how the music is played with drums. And apart from drums, you can see here 3 pictures about traditional mask, head coverage, that they use to fight the bad evils, Raksha, to also cure disease, or just to make fun. So you see a very typical design, hand-painted. And what you can do later in class with the teacher, you can also take this mask here and add some colors based on your imagination. You see a lot of red, orange, yellow colors, green, going into the masks. So this is also very typical of Sri Lanka, this mask. Good. But now I would like to maybe take you to the TV for 2 short videos. One will explain how the drums are produced, and the second one is more like a play of the drums. So, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Sri Lanka, a land of vibrant culture, customs, art and dance, all deeply influenced by the arrival of Buddhism in 300 BC. Music is an integral part of these aspects, and reigning supreme over all forms of traditional instrumentation is the majestic drum. Both the drum and its provider, the tree, are held with reverence. Craftsmen go to great lengths to find that perfect tree. And once found, it is felled at an auspicious time with a ceremony of gratitude. This tradition of tree finding is one that is passed down from generation to generation of drum artisans. Usually, Kohomba, Ahela, Kitul, Milla or jackfruit trees are used to fashion the body of the drum. And a tree that's next to a flowing body of water is often preferred. It is believed that the tree hears the sound of the water, and this reflects upon its resonance. The bark is first removed with a sharp hoe called a weya. The block is then shaped on a spinning clamp. Traditionally, a more elaborate device, which involved a cartwheel and rope driven by hand, was used to perform this task. But over the last few years, an electrical motor has replaced manpower, greatly increasing the speed of the shaping process. When creating the hollow, great care is taken to ensure equal thickness all around. The shell is then smoothened further, and intricate designs are carved onto the surface. Drums are often only lightly polished and not painted, as artisans believe that the wood needs to breathe to maintain its sound. For fasteners and sometimes for drumsticks, 2 types of creeper plants are used, namely Kirindi and Boketia. The head or the skin is then prepared from animal skin. It is fastened with a circular frame. The fasteners are called Varapati, and the process of fashioning them is called Vara Ambarana. The drum is then left to cure, after which it goes through a rigorous tuning process. It is now complete and begins a journey of rhythm and sound. History shows a myriad of 33 drums being used in traditional customs. However, only 10 are in widespread usage today. The gatabera is the main drum that accompanies upcountry dance or Kandyan dance and uses two varieties of skin to produce a two-tonal sound. Emerging from the low country is the yakbera, a drum that bears association with mask dancing and kolam dances. Also referred to as the twin drum, the tammattama is played with curled sticks instead of hands. The individual components produce two different tones that work to complement each other. The most used drum in many Buddhist ceremonies and rituals is the daula. This drum combines both stick and hand to produce its sound. From the northern parts of the island hails the miridangam and the tawil drum, both instruments constituents of Carnatic music and passed down through historical ties with India. From a resounding beat that embodies the joy of an occasion to the surreal trance of a traditional pageant, across open paddy fields and within traditional rituals, the sound of the drum has long echoed. As the world progresses with great speed, it is gratifying to know that such ancient traditions still spur on through a long line of drum artisans, architects with the ability to transport a person with the strike of their instruments to another pace, place and time.
An idea of the different kind of drums. You see, they play with the hand, sometimes with the elbow, sometimes with sticks, different sound, different shapes. So a very rich heritage, traditional heritage of the country. And there are also drums in India, of course. So next time you see a drum, then I hope you remember all this. Okay, so now I will invite you to join me for the last stop of our day. Because after listening to me for some time, I imagine you are a bit hungry, so now we can talk about food. So let me introduce you to some of the, food element of Sri Lanka. Here you can see, for example, a nice design. This is a napkin. Napkin that is basically folded into like a body shape, which is to give you some appetite. But what we can find in Sri Lanka, I would say, we can find almost everything that the Indian cuisine can offer with some variation. Here you have, for example, some rotis. You know what a roti here is. And curries. Curries are often like coconut based. The gravy is made out of coconut milk and they add a lot of vegetables to that. And here you can see vegetable curry with many different elements and spices which make it very tasty and enjoyable. Of course, served with rice. And I would like to also introduce you to some treats of Sri Lanka. The first one is Kirbath. Kirbath that you see here, and this is the one we have prepared for you today, so you will get to taste. It's basically rice cooked in coconut milk. And it has very specific flavor, so you will get to taste that one. Today we have, initially in Sri Lanka it's more like salty, but we have also prepared like a sweet version that I think you will enjoy more. This second treat is also very famous, and I remember being in a guest house, staying at the inhabitants and having for breakfast this treat, which is basically kesbada polpani. It's a small crepe or pancake, which is basically then prepared with some coconut, honey, jaggery mixed and rolled. It is very nice, sweet treat that is also quite popular in Sri Lanka. And the last one is banana sambal, which is easy to make. It's basically banana slice rolled in coconut, grated coconut. This is one of their treats. So what you need to remember is not it's a cuisine that's not too far from India, but with some variations that you will find here. And we'll get in a few minutes to experience this Kirbath, and I hope you enjoy. Any questions regarding the food? No, you are all hungry. Yes.
The three treats have coconut.
Yes, exactly. That's a common point that they have. Here, the banana slices are rolled in coconut, grated coconut. Here there is coconut milk, and this one also grated coconut. Yes?
What is that?
This? 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 It is a napkin. So basically, it's what you find on the table, on the dining table. You have the cutlery, fork, knife, spoon, plate, and you have a napkin, basically, that you use to, clean your hands or mouth, you know. And this is a napkin that is folded in a body shape. Yeah. Yes? Yes, to make the head. Huh? So that's a bit particular. Yeah. Any other questions? Otherwise, you are hungry and we eat. Yes?
What is on the bottom?
In the bottom.
This one?
Bottle.
Ah, bottle. Okay. These are sodas. Sodas. So, like you can find, I think this one is close to Coke or ginger, something like it's like a alcohol-free ginger beer. I think this one, and this is a soda like a Fanta. You see. So nothing very specific to Sri Lanka. Yeah. And this is a salad, mango salad. Mango salad. So this is sliced mango. Okay, with some spices, and it's really, really nice. Yeah, mango salad. Any other questions? Otherwise, we go and eat. Yes?
There is vegetarian food or
Yes.
non-vegetarian.
Actually, in Sri Lanka, you can find both. But here, everything is vegetarian. I mean, I'm vegetarian, so everything is vegetarian. Yeah. So that's also in some areas of India, you can also find both, non-veg and veg. In Gujarat, it's mostly vegetarian. So in Sri Lanka, it's the same. Yes. Good question. So now we eat? Yes, okay, I see, we eat. So thank you for listening today. I hope you will pick up some elements in your classes later on. And yeah, looking forward to the next travel.
Which one is the next country?
Everything is open. We can discuss, but mostly in Southeast Asia.